I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 31, Perfectionism. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. So in the last while, I've been listening to my clients, which I do, and it's so interesting because my clients don't know each other, yet they come to me with patterns, and I hear like the same thing, sometimes like 3 times in a week. I'm like, interesting. I think I need to talk about this one. So over the past couple of weeks, I've been listening, and I've heard perfectionist tendencies come up in my clients. I've heard even sometimes the word perfect. I have to get it perfect. If I can't get it perfect, why bother? I've heard things like this. And so I decided that it's time to do an episode about perfectionism. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So before I dive in, I just want to say thank you so much for helping my podcast to grow. It's so fun to watch my baby grow and to have people reach out and to see all the countries where people are listening to my podcast. It's very, very satisfying. I love it. So thank you so much for sharing. If you have not left a review yet, would you please hop on and leave a review? It helps people be able to search for it and find it and have it come up in their searches quicker, the higher their reviews are, and lends credibility to it. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, if it has helped you, if it's helped you to grow, to see things in a different way, I would love it if you go to iTunes to my podcast and leave me a review. Thank you. Okay, so I hear about this a lot. Like I said, I hear about the need to be perfect, this drive to be perfect, this desire to get everything all lined up and make your life look like you've got no flaws, right? Now, why is this a problem? It's a problem because we're not perfect and we never will be in this life, right? And so we're fighting against the human condition. So what is perfectionism? Perfectionism is when we want to be above the human condition of imperfection. We want to be viewed both internally and externally as above reproach. It's not that we want other people just to see us in a certain way. We even want to see ourselves in a certain way. We would rather lie to ourselves and look away from our flaws than to feel the discomfort of meeting our flaws head on. Now, what does this have to do with infidelity? It has everything to do with infidelity. Because if we are seeing the view through a perfectionism lens, imagine, and many of you are probably experiencing this, the absolute destruction to your view of yourself. If this person who was kind of propping up this image of you hurt that and betrayed that, right? If we are looking outside ourselves for the view of who we are and wanting to be seen as perfect, it can feel like such a blow when our spouse is unfaithful, okay? It can feel like even more of a blow. I'm not suggesting that anything is wrong here, right? With feeling hurt or feeling sad or things like that. I'm saying that if we come at it with perfectionist tendencies, it can feel like even more of a blow and be taken so much more personally. So we'll get into that, okay? So where does perfectionism come from? So perfectionism comes from lots of places. Cultural messages, ways that we were raised, exact words that were said to us, or words that were implied, okay? Even if they weren't directly said, messages that were implied, meanings that we gave to certain events in our life. Oftentimes, we grow up in homes where our parents have insecurities, amazing, right? They get to be human too. And they sometimes want to prop up their view of themselves by how their kids look. And so they put a lot of pressure on the kids to perform. And so then we have that dialogue in our brain that we have to perform to. The thing with perfectionism is that most of us don't intend to be perfectionists, and we come by it honestly, often in the way that we're raised. Another cultural thing is just the way things have grown with social media. You don't have to look far to go find pages on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest where there is a active campaign made to look perfect. It's like, I've got to have it all put together. I want to look flawless. You do not have to look far, right, to find accounts like that where they look flawless. Like, I keep my body in great shape. My children always wear matching clothes with their hair done and smiles on their faces. And we are all high achieving, and you don't have to look far, right? And so for many of us who don't necessarily feel like being that or doing that, it can make us feel like we're not good enough. So there's perfectionism on both sides there. And I'll get into that a little bit more. As babies, we're actually born quite self-absorbed. Some therapists even say that we're born with narcissistic traits. And hopefully we grow out of that, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes that same self-absorption stays with us and seems like it's a means of safety to try to protect us and keep us from getting hurt, but it can evolve into perfectionism. So how do you know if you have perfectionist tendencies? I'm going to name some various symptoms. I want you to listen and see if you hear yourself in any of these, but I'm going to say, please do not use this as something to judge yourself with. I tell you what, just in preparing this podcast, I did lots of research, read lots of different things, went through old stories of my own. I can raise my hand and say, yep, totally, I fall into that. I can see areas that I've come really far in and areas that I still need some work. So please don't use this to beat yourself up, okay? It's just information, knowledge to see, to know, and I'll give you some techniques to help you, okay? So much of what I have studied around this topic comes from therapist Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, and she studied and learned from David Schnarch, who's a therapist. So I've learned from them. I've learned from my own client experiences, and I'm going to share some of those things with you now, okay? So into the symptoms, okay? The traits of perfectionists. 1, conditional acceptance of yourself and others. Conditional. As long as I check these boxes, I'm good. If I don't, I'm bad. As long as my spouse or my children check these boxes, they're good. If they don't, not so much. Okay, very conditional. Constantly trying to manage what others think of you. That's like your preoccupation where your mind is most of the time trying to manage what other people think. People-pleasing tendencies, being willing to not tell the truth about something to manage someone's opinion about you. As long as they think this about me, they don't have anything to say about me that might not be kind, and I don't want them to think anything less than me, then I'm great and kind, and so I'm not going to let them see the actual truth, how I actually feel. We want to be seen as above reproach, any kind of reproach. We want to be seen by others as flawless, put together, right? Nothing to complain about that person. Resisting the reality that you're flawed, and when you see your flaws, using them as a weapon to believe that you're less than. So there's no tolerance for stepping into seeing your flaws and just seeing them and sitting with them. Instead, there's this judgment and very black and white, all or nothing. I'm either good or I'm bad, so I guess I'm bad. It's very intolerant of flaws. Intolerance to others thinking of you as less than perfect. Many perfectionists have a superwoman complex. They must be seen as all put together, being all things to all people, helping all the people, fit body, beautiful children, money, all of the things, okay? Superwoman. Many perfectionists maintain this kind of one up and one down mentality. What this means is in both roles, one up, one down, you're earning your value. It's not just given, you're earning it. So one up is all about feeling some kind of superiority over the other person. You're seeking validation by being better than, yet also often feeling contempt for others in your high and lofty superior state. Sometimes this one-up is arrogant. It pretends to be confident, but it actually is coming from quite an insecure place of needing to be validated. One down is where we play the victim role of the subservient, the server, giver, pretending like it's in the name of goodness, in the name of serving, but really seeking approval, wanting to be good enough. And in this role, there's often contempt for self. So in the one-up position, there's often contempt for others and judgment. And in the one down, there's contempt for self. Often we switch back and forth between these roles. We'll go back and forth. We can only see our personal flaws and limitations with disgust and shame and hiding. So we put much pressure on ourselves to get rid of them. And if we see them, we will vacillate between self-hatred, self-judgment. Often it can lead to depression, because if we see ourselves as flawed, see our flaws, and then have judgments about that and think we shouldn't be flawed, it may feel like we're just never going to be good enough and I might as well just give up, right? Okay, so now I want to look at some truths, okay? Perfectionism is a form of outsourcing your own value. It's like this: as long as others can see how great I am, I'm okay. If someone sees a flaw, I am not okay. It feels like a threat. We're always looking around us to inform our own sense of self rather than answering for ourselves who we actually are. Sometimes we sacrifice our own development, our own growth in the name of being a good wife and woman. We give, we serve in the name of being seen in a certain way. But this can lead to being unfulfilled and, like I said before, often depression, especially if some of our efforts fall flat, are unappreciated, or are not executed perfectly. The thought can creep in: if I can't do it perfectly, I may as well not do it at all, right? Might as well just not do it. Another truth, though, is that the human condition will always be underdeveloped. Forever and ever, as long as we are living, we will always be underdeveloped, and it's okay. Accepting our flaws is loving and kind. Accepting our flaws and resisting our flaws is demeaning to our inherent value. We are just valuable. We just are. Flaws and all. Our being is valuable. But many people adopt this mindset that it's the doing that is valuable, not the being. And that's where this perfectionism comes in. As long as I'm doing, I'm valuable. But the second I stop, I become invaluable. So it's not that we have flaws that's a problem. What creates the problem, what creates so much pain, is our resistance to our flaws. It creates so much pain. We try to override the system. We try to hustle for our worth. Another truth is that perfectionism can damage relationships. When we expect other people to prop up the version of us that we want them to see for us to feel okay, we're actually not allowing ourselves to be seen and known. We're not allowing for intimacy, true intimacy. We often blame the relationship or the spouse for the problem, but in reality, there is much self-betrayal going on here. Perfectionists are often afraid to be seen as vulnerable or having insecurities because it allows their spouses to see that they are less than perfect, and they don't want that to be seen because it feels like a threat. They'd rather keep that facade of perfection and keep up a wall. This can be difficult in a marriage, right? It can make being really close hard and put very heavy expectations on the person you're married to. Like, if I need to be perfect, then they need to be perfect. And if they're not perfect, then what does it mean about me? And back and forth. Even with infidelity, especially with infidelity. You know, it's really interesting when I meet with new clients for the first time, because no matter what, like, I have yet to meet anybody who was just like unfazed, like, oh, no big deal, right? And I would not want that for them. I want them to come to me and in a place to work through it and really look at all the angles and how the interpretation that they have of this infidelity, okay? But where I see kind of the most damage done is when we have this outward validation system where we're getting our validation from the people around us, particularly from our family, our spouses, our children, you can believe that it feels quite devastating and like quite a blow if that's the foundation you're standing on. Because if a husband was unfaithful, the person on the other end of that, because of where they are in their mind, takes it so personally and makes it all about them, that I must not be valuable or he wouldn't have done this. They're forgetting their own value. They're just assuming that they're not worth being faithful to. My clients that come that have more of kind of a tolerance for their own imperfections, who have a friendship with themselves, yeah, it's still hard. It's still hard, but they have a little bit more of a foundation to work with, to build on, and heal quicker, move forward faster. It's interesting to watch. We can also, from this view of perfectionism, have a really hard time understanding the infidelity of another person because all we can see is how it hurts us, what we make it mean about us, and what we make it mean about them out the gate without understanding and without sitting in the discomfort of looking at the big picture, right? If we are hanging out in a space of self-loathing, we're totally looking for our spouse to validate us. And when they don't in the way that we want them to, of course, we're going to use it as ourselves, right? But we're also going to use it against them. It's your fault that I feel this way. It's your fault. Now, I want to point out that perfectionism does not just look like the overachiever. I think when we think of perfectionists, we think of the person with the perfect home, perfect yard, perfect clothes, perfect weight, so involved in everything, just really have it all together, right? All together, super high achiever. Did you know that underachievers can also be perfectionists? Why? These people may look like they don't get much done, but it's often because they're so afraid to get it wrong that they would rather not try. They'd rather do nothing. Yet, here's the thing that's kind of funny about this is that they often have very high expectations of others to help validate themselves in their own self-loathing. It's like, I'm going to sit here and feel terrible and not do anything because I don't want to fail. I can't risk failing. I can't risk seeing myself in that light. So all of you around me, you need to tell me how amazing I am. You need to make me look good, okay? No pressure, right? So how did we get here? One of the ways we got here is that we're told in the Bible to be ye therefore perfect. I think that's a scripture that we use against ourselves. Did you know that in the Bible times, when the Bible was written, perfect meant to be whole, to progress, to grow, to develop, to be aligned with yourself, to be in integrity with yourself. This is something I learned in preparing this podcast episode, that the way that we see perfection now, didn't come around until after the Industrial Revolution. Isn't that interesting? Now, perfection means to be flawless. It means to be flawless because we can take a machine and literally mass produce perfect things. So when we think of something being perfect now, it means flawless. But what it used to mean when that was written was whole. Very different. We are actually not machines. Isn't that good news? We're not machines. We are actually meant to be flawed and evolving beings. We're supposed to be that. We're not supposed to be cookie cutter perfection. How boring is that, right? So what is the solution? How can we be more honest with ourselves in our relationships? Number one is having compassion for the human condition. Compassion. We are all in this. It's messy, right? If you remember, several episodes ago, I did a podcast episode about the 50-50 rule. And that 50-50 rule is all about growing our tolerance for the 50 that doesn't feel so good. So many of us have this false notion that life is supposed to just be happy and good, and that if I'm doing it right, it just feels good. I just feel good things all the time. That's the biggest lie. 50-50. We're supposed to feel negative emotions too. We get to sometimes choose what negative emotions, meaning if we decide to lean in to a conversation where we know we might get messy, we might say something wrong, we might feel vulnerable, we might let our guard down. If we lean into that, we are growing our own courage and compassion. We're growing our tolerance to making mistakes in that in service of who we want to become, ourselves and in our relationships. Courageous compassion is what we're talking about here. We're talking about developing a deep self-trust that says, no matter what, I've got me. No matter what, I've got my own back. Now, why courageous compassion? Why courageous? Because it takes courage to show self-compassion. It's a form of growing up and maturing. I was thinking as I was writing this about some of my journal entries from years past, and it would just make you cry. Gosh, I feel sad for that girl who was so hard on herself. I was filled with so much self-loathing as a young mom and wife. I never felt like I was doing good enough. I never did. I was filled with insecurity. I've come so far from that place by practicing this courageous compassion. It takes courage because it feels vulnerable. It takes courage to be willing to see yourself in a different light. But I'm so grateful for that work. I have developed this skill of wondering what else might be true about me. Okay, so this is what I'm saying about myself when I'm self-loathing. What else might be true? If that awful thing isn't true, what else could I be? That's using courage and compassion to look a little deeper and be willing to sit with the discomfort of that. You're growing a tolerance to it. I have been able to practice having compassion for myself and where I was, seeing that I was doing the best that I could. How do you practice this? First of all, you get out of your head and onto paper all your thoughts about yourself. Get them out of your head. Sometimes just seeing those thoughts on paper, you can have a thought like, wow, that sounds harsh. That's not very nice. You can separate out what is actually true. What is a circumstance? What is a thought? When you think that thought, how does it feel? And how do I show up in the world when I feel that way? What's it creating for me? The more honest you can be in this process, the more you'll be able to address it head on. A question I like to ask when I look at feelings that I have, thoughts that I have, are telling the truth about, is this helping me to move forward or is it keeping me stuck? If it's keeping me stuck, it's probably not a useful thought. We're talking here about acceptance of what is. Sometimes I am lazy, sloppy, jealous, snarky, grumpy, whatever. But I am also these things. I'm also kind and good and smart and loving. It's really creating this container of safety for all human emotion. Making it okay to feel, making it okay to be a person who has flaws, who has things to work on. Again, understand and be honest with yourself that self-loathing is indulgent and it does not move you forward. What do I mean by indulgent? It kind of sucks you in. Like we may try something, mess it up, and want to quit. But a mature, more grown-up version of ourselves requires that we look at it, feel the discomfort in it, learn from it, and try again, knowing full well that we'll probably mess up again and probably very soon, right? Manage expectations of yourself and others for reasons that you like. Are you wanting your husband to post flowery things on Facebook about your life, about you, to prop up a version of you that you want the world to see? What do you actually want? Is that in alignment with your values? Or do you really want a marriage that is true, where you see each other in all of your flaws and choose each other? What would you rather have? Why are you wanting X, Y, and Z? And are they values-based or validation-based? Practice just being and not doing. Practice. How can I sit here and not do anything and still be valuable? Allow yourself to feel that. Keep trying, but grow in your capacity to be flawed. Try for reasons that feel real and true, that line up with your values. As you grow, you'll make space for others around you to be flawed. It won't be a problem. You won't take their flaws so personally. You'll be able to stand back and look more objectively at the whole picture rather than instantly making it about you. So back to infidelity. That last thing that I said is so important because I'm not saying that we just allow any behavior, that we're just like, oh, no problem, because I know who I am and I feel so good about myself. So you just do what you want and it's no problem. Totally not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we allow ourselves to be flawed and good and whole and valuable and worthy, we see things through a different lens. We honor our values. We honor who we are, flaws and all. And sometimes it looks like this. I cannot stay here because this goes against my values of what the kind of life that I actually want and what I believe. And if you're not on board with my values, it's totally fine, but it's not going to work. Or these are my values. And if you would like to work with me to get to a place where I feel like those values are being honored, then we can move forward. And if not, carry on and I'll be just fine. I know I make it sound easier said than done, right? But that's what I'm talking about. Not just about allowing bad behavior. It means that we are coming at it from a more whole angle. We're not taking it quite as personally and we're able to look at it more objectively. What this really comes down to is a deep, abiding, unconditional love for yourself. No matter what. No matter what. Even when I feel terrible. Even when I mess up. Even when I really mess up. I still love myself. Unconditionally. No matter what. When this grows, we become unafraid of the future. We become unafraid to handle hard situations. We might be afraid, but we know we can take it, right? We know we can handle it. This is where so much freedom comes in. I tell you what, the more I have grown in this, the better my life gets. A really good life does not come from not making mistakes or not being flawed or not having things that you struggle with or baggage or whatever you might want to call it. A really good life comes from our tolerance to accept our flaws. Isn't that amazing? A really good life comes from our own tolerance to our flaws and to the flaws around us. It doesn't mean we quit trying. It doesn't mean, I'm just going to hang out here and it's good enough. Yeah, we keep striving. We keep growing. We're here to grow. But we're not doing it for validation purposes, to prop up our ego, to make us look good. We're doing it out of love and respect for ourselves. We're doing it to grow our self-respect of being the person in the world that we want to be. Even this tolerance to our flaws and to our imperfections can grow our self-respect because we're telling ourselves the truth. And we can look at those things and evaluate them and say, is this something that I just will have to live with forever? Or is this something that I can work on? Is this something I can practice? Knowing full well that I'll probably mess it up in 5 minutes. Right? So it's just telling yourself the truth. And there's so much respect, self-respect that is born when we stay in that space of truth-telling and moving forward. Getting out of that indulgent cycle of I'm just not good enough and I'll never be good enough and other people are better than me. Getting out of that and stepping into, well, what can I do? Who do I want to be? I want to practice being this person. I want to practice. It takes courage and compassion. So my friends, I hope you found this helpful. Again, I hope that you're not using any of it against yourself. This is all intended to just shine a light and to show us areas that we can grow, right? Areas where we might be causing ourselves pain, unnecessary pain. How can you let go of some of that pain today? All right. Thank you, my friends. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.